Hello, this is D.L. Hudson. Welcome to Church and Culture. This show is devoted to exploring the interaction between our faith and our culture. Each week, I will talk with expert guests on topics ranging from literature, art, and music to politics, liturgy, spirituality, and education. Thank you for joining us. I'm privileged and delighted to welcome back to Church and Culture the American composer Samuel Jones, who we'll call Sam because I've gotten to know him, and a pleasure getting to know him personally. Sam Jones, welcome to Church and Culture.
Thanks, Bill. It's a joy to be back with you again.
Now, I have to go through a little bit of your bona fides here before we start, just so anyone who has not heard that first show we did will know more about you, and that is you were born in Inverness, Mississippi in 1935 with the Millsaps. You went to Eastman School of Music, where you studied with many now celebrated figures in American classical music. From there, you went on to be a conductor in Rochester and other places, and then ended up down in Houston and founded the Shepherd School of Music at Rice, where you served as dean for 7 years and in other capacities for a total of 24. From there, you went to the Seattle Symphony Orchestra and was for 14 years composer in residence. And out of that relationship with conductor Gerald Schwartz, lots of great music was made and composed and recorded.
Right. By the way, his name is with an R. It's Gerard.
But you call him Jerry, don't you?
Yes. His friends all call him Jerry.
Okay, so
we'll call him. Kind of a down-to-earth guy.
I met him once, and he was very down-to-earth and easy to talk to. But I look forward to meeting him again at the performance of your violin concerto in Greensboro, North Carolina, on, I believe it's July 22nd. Is that correct?
That's right. Just, 3 weeks or so from now.
Right. So any of you that are in the hailing distance of Greensboro and want to go over to the Eastern Music Festival,
right.
On the evening of June 22nd, you'll hear a great performance by internationally known violinist and wonderful conductor Jerry Schwartz and a great Eastman Festival orchestra.
That orchestra is indeed terrific, Deal. And the soloist is Anna Pico Myers, who was the one who gave the television premiere with George Schwartz and the All-Star Orchestra already a couple of years ago now. But this is the first performance live. I've been saving it for them. This is the first chance that they were able to get together. And then after this, the work will be available for other performances as well.
Great.
It will be the live premiere because the other performance was just for television only. And so, and not only that, but I'm looking forward very much to meeting you in person. We've become good friends.
We have.
Long friends. But, I'm so delighted that you're going to be there.
I'll be down there for dinner the night before, and I might mention that the violinist is easy on the eye. Not that that makes any difference at all.
Well, it doesn't, but it is.
But if that sells a few more tickets, so be it. But we're going to talk about a really important composition of yours, and one that will touch many people, has touched many people, will touch many more, because it's a setting in opera form of Truman Capote's now beloved memoir, A Christmas Memory. Now, I call it a memoir only because it is based upon his own experience of growing up and in the South, the Deep South, and you yourself said the first time you read it, you had to set it.
That's absolutely right. It made a huge impression on me. It is true. It's based on this vignette from his childhood. Although he does an amazing thing of it. It's not just a memoir. It is a memoir in the larger sense, as you said, but he turns it into a tremendously moving artistic story. He takes his own name out of it, and it's a love story between unlikely people, namely the little 7-year-old boy and his distant cousin who was in her 60s, and he puts it so delicately. She is still a child, and they live. That is to say, she was not a full functioning adult,
Yes.
but oh my God, she had the insights,
Yes.
and she brought such joy to this young boy's life.
And he, in the Capote memoir, is called Buddy, and she's never named. She's only called My Friend.
That's exactly right. Never named, and I tackled that problem in my libretto. I wrote the libretto to the opera based on not only his story, but also the screenplay that Eleanor Perry wrote for that very, very famous television production starring Geraldine Page as his friend. Her actual name was Sook, S-O-O-K, Sook Falk, F-A-U-L-K, and a great deal is known about this relationship, and I refer to her, even though in the opera she's only called the woman, I think is the name I gave her, and Capote's name. There is a narrator in the opera, which is Capote as an adult remembering. That's the basis of this whole story, A Christmas Memory, and that character is sung by a tenor, and very high, very dramatic kind of a tenor, not Italian dramatic, lyrical dramatic, and that character I call simply the author. So there are three main characters: Capote as an adult, the title of the author; Capote as a boy, which is a boy soprano. That name, of course, is the same name as in the story, Buddy. And then the woman, who is his dearly beloved distant cousin, whose name is Sook Falk.
By the way, you don't make it easy on the singers. There's some pretty tough passages in there, but in the recording we're going to hear, it's just handled effortlessly, beautifully.
Yeah, that's right. I take her up to a high D at the very end.
Yeah, I heard that. I went, whoa! But you got to tell us how you convinced Truman Capote, who notoriously, how shall I say it, eccentric man, but also a bona fide world celebrity, a renowned and friend of everybody of importance. Skip over the part about how difficult it was for Eleanor Perry to get rights to do the TV screenplay, and tell us about how you related to Truman Capote.
Right. Well, first of all, it wasn't difficult getting rights from Eleanor Perry at all. She was very friendly, and when we met, we had a wonderful time, and she very readily agreed. But she predicted that the trouble would be, or the difficulty would be, getting rights from Capote, because she had the same kind of difficulties. The reason for that is that this story was so special to Capote himself. It's, as we said, intensely autobiographical. And he guarded it jealously and turned down routinely and instructed his publishers to turn down any requests to turn it into any kind of a dramatic reproduction. He wanted just the story to stand by itself. But when Eleanor Perry and her husband talked to him, he could sense that they really really respected the story and would treat it correctly, and the result was that marvelous television program we talked about. I knew that I would have the same kind of problem. In fact, I did. I wrote his publisher and requested the permission to set the story. got back an immediate, sorry, this is not available for any kind of dramatic treatment. So I just had to kind of bide my time. I had fallen in love with the story, as I mentioned, when the first time I read it. It was deeply, deeply moving. I couldn't help myself. I just sat down and started writing, and I had to catch myself by the scruff of the neck, as it were, and then say, wait a minute here, you can't write too much because you may not get the permission. But I had to bide my time, and finally, I noticed, and by this point I was living in Houston, was the dean of the Shepherd School, and in the society pages of one of the newspapers came the news that Truman Capote would be visiting, and I thought, well, this is going to be very, very interesting.
By the way, I've met that lady that you, where you met Truman Capote down in Houston, Lynn Wyatt.
Lynn Wyatt. Oh, yes. Well, she's. You have met her. Yes.
Yeah, a couple times.
She's a very striking.
She's something else.
Woman. and she and her husband Oscar lived in perhaps the grandest house in Houston at that time.
Yes.
And so, and this was just like Capote because he traveled all over the world and met with.
But evidently he got you. Evidently he got you drunk when you were thinking he was going to get drunk.
That's the story. Because when we had our meeting, I was expecting, let's face it, he had a perhaps, shall we say, a well-deserved reputation for an appreciator of the finer points of alcoholic drink. He was
very flamboyant.
Yes, indeed. And so I was fully expecting that I was going to have to lubricate my end of the conversation as well. And so I went fully prepared. My wife said, you're kind of a straight arrow guy. We're going to have to get you ready for this. And so she gave me a Bloody Mary before I got there. So I was already, ready to go. The most striking thing about this beautiful library that we had our meeting in was a huge cart of everything imaginable in alcoholic on it. And so he immediately took me over there and said, well, you have to drink. Well, I knew I had to drink something and participate in the conversation. And I chose scotch. And then I was floored when I saw what he poured for himself, which was a Diet Coke.
Wow.
He said, you're not having anything to drink? He said, no, I'm on the wagon for a while.
But you weren't.
And the whole interview went on, and I had to keep drinking scotch, and he had to keep drinking. My words were so terribly slurred by the end of that conversation, but by God, I had those right.
And you got him to send you a postcard confirming that, which turned out to be important because he passed away.
Yes, that's right. Before I finished the orchestration, that's right. So that's the story. But thank goodness I didn't have those. I had it in writing that he wanted me to do it because he knew that I had the same kind of love and respect that Paris had had as well.
Well, let's listen to the opening. Just what is this? This opening is partly orchestral, but then the voices enter. Tell us what we'll be hearing.
That's right. Well, if the author is setting the stage, and in fact, this part of it uses pretty much the words directly from the story, and I can just read them quickly. It's so famous. A coming of winter morning more than 40 years ago. Just today the fireplace commenced its seasonal roar. And then the woman, we see her, and she says, oh my, it's fruitcake weather. And that, you see how I began to sense the musical way that those words could work. And then he says, the person to whom she's speaking is myself. I am 7. She is 60-something. we are cousins, distant cousins, and we've lived together, well, as long as I can remember. And then it goes on, and he's talking about this special relationship. And so this sets up the relationship, and perhaps it's best to listen to it now.
Let's listen. We're going to listen to the opening of Samuel Jones' opera based upon Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory.
Morning over 40 years ago. Just today the fireplace commenced its seasonal roar. Myself, I am 7, she is 60-something. We are cousins, distant cousins, and we have lived together, well, as long as I can remember. Other people inhabit the house, relatives, and though they have power over us and frequently make us cry, you're not on the whole too much aware of them. We are each other's best friend. She calls me Buddy in memory of a boy who was formerly her best friend. The other Buddy died in the 1880s when she was still a little child. She is still a child. It's fruity weather. But how do you know? I knew it before I got on.
That was the opening 4 minutes of Samuel Jones' opera based upon Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory. Sam, we should tell our listeners that this recording is sadly not commercially available. Tell us about how this recording was made, and who do you recall who these singers are?
The singers are the cast from the opera, the performance of the opera in Dallas, the Deep Ellum Opera Theater, and the orchestra is the Amarillo Symphony, the public television station in Amarillo, which used to be a wonderful producing station as well, optioned this piece on the strength of that performance in Dallas, and they wanted to make a television program of it. It never materialized because of the funding requirements that the whole industry faced about that same time. They had to switch over from analog to digital, and all the money that they raised had to go to buying the new equipment. So that didn't quite pan out. But in the process, the first thing they did was to hire the Amarillo Symphony to play to the accompaniment using the cast, as I say, from the Dallas production that they've intended to use. It's just a reading; it's not the finished product.
But the Dallas premiere, which had 13 performances, only had the piano accompaniment, correct?
That's correct. It only had piano. That's right. But thank goodness that at least we now have an orchestral version, even though it's just a kind of a reading. It's not the totally finished product. But I'm still very hopeful, and in fact, there are some discussions going on now about the possibility of a recording.
Wow, that's great.
Under a fully professional. Well, this was professional too, but it was, as I say, it was reading, not a performance.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah,
that's great
news.
I'll ask St. Thomas Aquinas to push that forward.
We'll accept all prayers.
Okay. One interesting moment right at the beginning is you let the church bells sound a kind of a dissonant warning almost. Church bells usually are used like at the beginning of Franz Waxman's Peyton Place soundtrack, are usually used to, I think, represent a community happiness or a community where everything's going well. But here, these church bells are slightly ominous. Is that too hard?
That is true. And the pitches, an F and an E, they're half step apart, and of course, there's something extremely primal about that interval. It's the sigh motive.
Yeah.
And so at the very outset, the poignance of this beautiful, beautiful love story is also deeply imprinted, and we know that it's going to have, not a happy ending. It's going to be something very sad. But this is, I think, in a certain way, great art does that. It expresses both the joy and the inherent sadness and tragedy in life, and there are times when, of course, you want just a joyful piece, no holds barred.
Well, you've got an opera here that's a little over 60 minutes long. You want to tell a story. A story has to have some sort of dramatic tension in it, some question being raised, and you do it right there at the beginning with those church bells.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't quite know what it's going to be, but when we hear that this 60-plus woman is still a child, right?
That's right.
And that her best friend is this young 7-year-old boy named Buddy. We know we have at least an awkward situation we're presenting.
That's absolutely right. It's this story is so famous and so beloved. You and I both. I was so delighted to learn that you too are deeply moved by this, and we are just two out of the thousands upon thousands of people for whom
I read it aloud every Christmas. Now, Sam, we have 3 minutes left in this first half, so we're going to go ahead and play the next cut, which is her name is Sook, although she's not called that in Capote's book.
Is it possible to skip to the third cut?
I'm I'm sure it is. But that's longer than we have time. We can talk until the end of this segment, and then do all the remaining three cuts on the other side. Let's set up, however, uh, the order in which you want these played and why.
All right. The next one is Suk is singing. It is Christmas weather. It's time for the fruitcakes. It's a ritual that they always
which were mentioned in the first
right
part. Yeah.
And that's a very short little arietta. And then comes the duet. And I particularly want to share that with our audience. A duet between Suk and Buddy, and it's the special qualities, the special relationship that they have. And then the last one is at the very end of the opera. It's something about the childlike as well as deeply profound insights, childlike nature and profound insights that the woman Suk has and shares with her young friend Buddy, called "My How Foolish I Am." That one uses Capote's words absolutely just as they come in the story.
Okay, we've come to the end of the first half of the show. I'm talking with Samuel Jones, American composer par excellence, about his A Christmas Memory opera based upon the tale of the same name by Truman Capote. We'll be back after this short break. I'm back with American composer Samuel Jones. We're talking about his opera based upon Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory. First half of the show, we talked about in broad outline about it and listened to the first 4 minutes where it introduced the overall, I should say, feel of the opera, and the author, who sings high tenor, introducing the characters of Buddy and his friend, who's in her 60s but still a child. So now we're going to hear, Sam, an arietta by that character whose name is Suk. Tell us about this arietta. Why do you call it an arietta?
It's a little aria.
Okay.
It's short.
Mm-hmm.
She's setting the stage, and she and Buddy are together, and she's singing to him that yes, it's time for baking. It's November. The cold weather is coming. It's time for us to bake our fruitcakes. And you know, in writing an opera, as you take the story and turn it into an opera, there are these moments when the action kind of stops, and then the lyricism, the music, that takes over and helps to paint the feelings of the occasion. And in those instances, the librettist, which, as I indicated earlier, is myself,
Yes.
The librettist has to write poetry or a different kind of set of words that expand on the feeling involved. And so what she's saying, this is what I wrote. She's saying, don't you just love this time of year, a time when it's crisp, when memory's clear, when leaves on the ground are browning and curled. It's Christmas weather. The sky is so gray, the sky is so blue, the cold nips your toes through a frost-bitten shoe. The palm trees are shaken and blown and unfurled. It's fruitcake weather. I don't know why, but people seem closer who live very far away. Why does this sky make a body remember who's been friendly and want to say, people who smile and offer their hand, who send us a postcard from some distant land, who open their hearts and share their world? Those are the people this time is made for. Those are the people that Christmas is made for. Those are the people we must remember. It's fruitcake weather. It's Christmas weather.
Let's listen to Suk's arietta. That was Sook's Arietta from Samuel Jones' opera, A Christmas Memory. Sam, I think we should tell our listeners where this is going because the making of the fruitcakes, which of course includes liquor, leads them, I believe, leads her to send Buddy out for liquor, and that leads to a encounter with the two. Are they aunts that live with them, and they're not real happy with that.
Oh, they're very much unhappy with that, and that leads to the biggest dramatic moment in the opera. But before they get to the liquor, they have to get pecans for them. They have to get the ingredients together for this fruitcake. And they go to the general store and buy what they can with the pennies that they've saved from the various things all during the year. But the pecans, they have to go and forage at one of the local residents' pecan grove. And while they're doing that, they have this touching little moment that basically is a kind of a long-standing ritual that they share, and they're talking about promise. She says, the little boy says, promise you'll never be too old to hold my hand. Promise you'll always be my dearest, closest friend, because we're the best friends in the world, on the earth and the sky and the whole wide world. Those other people might think they're friends, but they're not, because we're the best friends in the whole wide world. And then she answers, buddy, I'll never be too old to hold your hand, and you're the one who must always be my closest, dearest friend. And then they sing together the little refrain, we're the best friends in the whole wide world. But it starts, this little excerpt, it starts, she says, my back hurts. He says, mine doesn't. He says, I should hope not, you're too young. And they've been picking the pecans off of the ground, and that's why her back hurts. In any event, so this is this little excerpt.
Well, I got kind of choked up just listening to you read the libretto. So let's listen to this duet between Buddy and his best friend Sook, the 7-year-old and the 60-plus who is still a child, called Best Friends. Let's listen.
My back hurts. Mine doesn't. I should hope not, you're too young. When I'm old, will you be home? When you're old, will be very fond. Then you have to bake all the cakes yourself. No,
Well, Sam Jones, that's just beautiful. I mean, that's just flat out touching. And I have a bit of the old South in me, and so does my family. And we've we all know how much children need to know they're loved, need to know they're safe, need to know there's somebody
Right.
looking out for them. And you certainly took those words and shaped them melodically and rhythmically in a way that was very convincing. I know in an interview you did on Huffington Post, you talk about how words inspire you to make music. How would you describe that?
Yes, that's true. And by the way, we should mention the author of that Huffington Post article, Susan Eisenberg. And it's still, you can find it, anyone who...
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Susan Dormandy Eisenberg, and it's on Huffington Post from 2016. It's a very good interview with you.
You can look it up just with my name and
Right.
just memory. Yeah. But she did a marvelous job with that article. It's so fascinating that, first of all, I love words as much as I love music, and I love to write. And in setting words, quite frequently, I find that as a composer, I have to dig deep into the essence of the shaping of the words as well as their inner meaning. That is to say, the way, the rhythm of the words and the inflection already suggests in a certain way what the dimensions of the music themselves are and will be. It's not totally a one-to-one relationship, but the suggestion is very strong. And in setting words, it's important to not only be sensitive to that inflection and that direction, but also the music itself has to be obeying certain musical laws as well. And both have to happen simultaneously. And when that happens, when you find that correct combination, magic happens.
Did you mean to have a kind of rocking?
Let me make one.
Yeah.
Because this program so well, one step more, holy magic happens. It's something that is at the very essence of everything that is indeed of the essence of existence, and therefore holy.
And did you try to get that sense of a kind of a rocking rhythm in the midst of that?
I'm sorry?
There's almost a sense of rocking going on between the two of them.
Yes, that's right. And incidentally, that sense of the rhythmic background, going back to the opening of our program, the rhythm, that is after I wrote it, I discovered later, I mean, it just happened automatically, but that rhythm, da-da-da, is the ancient poetic foot of the dactyl, it's dactylic meter. Mm-hmm. And that's, I found out, is the rhythm that the ancient poets used when they were setting up and telling a story. Well, once upon a time kind of feeling, and I went instinctively to that rhythm to open up the opera. So many things happen subconsciously, and yet in such an incredible way.
Well, we won't go into the psychology of artistic creativity, but I have a feeling that you need to go there to do your best work. Now, tell us about we have one more cut to play, and it's entitled "My How Foolish I Am," and it's not an arietta, but an aria by Suk. Now, does this come after the encounter with her sisters?
Yes, after. And this is near the very end of the opera. That shattering confrontation with her sisters was something that she was left in tears, and the aunt stormed out of the room, and Buddy comforts Sook, and it's a very, very touching moment. And they confess to each other that their Christmas presents this year are going to be the same as they've always been. Namely, they make kites for each other. Kites.
Oh,
they love to
fly away.
Fly kites. And so when Christmas Day comes, there's a little celebration, and we hear the little family get together and sing "Hark the Herald Angels," and then afterwards, Buddy and Sook retire to her room, and they have their own private Christmas, and they share their kites, and they can't wait to get out to the pasture where they can actually get them up in the air. And while they're there, after they've gotten them flying, she kind of has this marvelous moment of just kind of reflecting on things. And she says, "My Buddy, how foolish I am." And this aria, by the way, is word for word Capote's words. He already was right. This marvelous moment in the story is already in a poetic vein and did not need any kind of further editing to be a moment in which an aria could be spun around.
And I believe this is where you make your soprano go to a high D.
I do, and I'll tell you a little story about that in a moment. But first, in fact, I'll tell you right now. I shared this opera a long time ago with a friend who was an opera director, and he said, "But why is she's an older woman? This character, she should be a mezzo." And I said, "Oh no, she's still a child. It has to be a lyric soprano." And so that's why that's part of the miracle of it, that you're hearing these high sounds come from this older woman. And another thing that I remembered, and I've never shared this with anybody, but I was once in a church service, and the choir was singing, and all of a sudden one of the sopranos just started singing higher and higher and higher, and it was a surreal moment in the church service in which she had a kind of a little seizure or something, and it floated up high, at least as high as the sea, but the whole congregation just kind of took it in stride, and the pastor smoothed it over, and he comforted her, and everything was okay. Turns out that she had a history of having problems of this sort. But the surreal quality of that made me, I remembered it when I was writing this character, and at that moment, it became obvious that the music needed to go up to that same high D.
Now, what is she going to say in this? Before we listen to it, what is she going to be saying?
She says, get the picture. The two of them are in the pasture. Their kites are up, floating up high, and she's ruminating and saying, "My, how foolish I am. You know what I've always thought? I've always thought a body would have to be sick and dying before they saw the Lord. And I imagined that when the Lord came, it would be like looking at a Baptist window. Prettiest colored glass with the sun pouring through. Such a shine, you don't know it's getting dark. And it's been a comfort to think of that shine taking away all the spooky feeling. But I'll wager it never happens. I'll wager at the very end, a body realizes the Lord has already shown himself, that things as they are just what they've always been, was seeing him. As for me, I could leave the world with today in my eyes.
Let's listen to that Suk's aria from the ending portion of Samuel Jones' A Christmas Memory. That was Suk's aria, How Foolish I Am, from the ending of Samuel Jones' opera, A Christmas Memory. Sam, we've run out of time, but I want to thank you for being on Church and Culture to share this absolutely beautiful opera of yours. And I'm sure that everyone listening joins me in hoping that it will be recorded and will start being performed widely. And I want to invite you right now to come back on the show in the next few weeks to talk about the oratorio you wrote, The Temptation of Jesus.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. Let me just say quickly, James Serpin was conducting the Amarillo Symphony. I don't think I mentioned that before, and he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, even though, as you say, it was a run through and not entirely a finished product, it sure served the purpose of making us all want to hear it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Samuel Jones.
My pleasure, Gio. Thank you so very much for being with you.
And all of you listening, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.